Hello, everybody, and we're going to talk pianos. We're going to break stuff today. We're going to break some piano shanks on my grand piano, and I'm going to do it in a way that I've done it in the past, fairly recently. Now, I haven't done the dreaded holding down the key ends and you pull the action out and you break a hammer or two that way. I haven't done that in a while, but what I did do was forget that I had a tool laying down in the middle of the keyboard. So I'm like, hey, I was so focused on, I'm not going to touch the keys and pull this out. I'm going to do I'm doing it right. So I go like this and I'm like, oh, something's a little bit jammed, but no, it's fine. I pull it out and snap. So what typically happens, just so everybody knows, is when this is happening, basically that you're pulling the hammer against the the pin block area down below. And so what's happening is there's pressure being put upon usually right around here. And what happens is I don't even like doing it. That. And what you're usually left with is something like this. So we're going to try this 3 separate times and see what kind of breaks we get. And again, go over kind of different protocols and things that you can do in the field to do this. Now, hopefully this either happens to you early on in the beginning of the service call, or it is something that you're not the culprit and that you've noticed it being the case early in the service call. Actually, best case scenario is this isn't happening, but we're here because it is happening. So let's do this. All right, I'm going to try to kind of angle my camera.
And I have one to also show you.
That
I broke. So you're going to have to show me how to fix that.
All right, perfect. Well, we're going to do this. All right, I'm going to start by, that's good enough angle. You'll see my face. You'll see my back, and I'll kind of like angle over like, okay. So let's start with the most typical one is usually, for whatever reason, in this high treble section. And it usually happens from somebody holding down this key, and they go, listen, let's see if we can listen for it. You kind of heard that little crunch, and oh my gosh, that's going to be a fun one. See, this is in real time. We don't know what's going to happen. In this case, let's see if you can see that. Okay, that's number 1. We're going to have to fix that. That's a weird one. You notice that? It's just like the glue joint behind. That's number 1. Let's do the far, we're going to do the far left, the bass, and I'm going to kind of like pull it out really quick. Oh. It's not doing it because it's too low. Okay, we're going to try the middle. There we go. Oh. All right, well, that was good because I broke 2 in 1. Somebody's probably just watching this and like, what am I looking at? This is not fun.
How to destroy a piano the slow route.
I know, this is going to be a good one. Janice, this is kind of close to what happened with yours, right? It's kind of broken halfway. This is great. All right. And then this one looks really sad. But I've seen all of these. These are typical what you would see out in the field. So this is going to be good. This is going to be good. Let's look at what we're working with. So we got this guy right here, which, if I'm honest with you, this is going to be the easiest of the 3. This is going to be something, it's essentially what we call a scarf joint. And so you can see that they're going to line up just right. There's plenty of wood mass on there for us to do this repair and salvage everything. This one right here is going to be interesting. So we'll figure that one out. And then finally, Out of the three, I believe this one is going to be the most difficult. So right away, has anybody run across anything like this before? Has anybody here broken one like this? Have you like pulled the action out yet and done this?
I have not broken one yet by pulling on an action. I've been
Oh,
fortunate.
oh,
Just had the scarf
I
joint.
make mistakes. What'd you say, Robert?
I just had the scarf joint one, which is easier.
Yeah. So what I want to go over really quick is this concept of really wood glue. So my friend, him and I apprenticed with this amazing rebuilder, and my dear friend Sam. He actually spent way more time with this rebuilder and did all this stuff. So whenever it comes to what Sam says and glues and things of that nature, I'm like, okay, I believe you. So he said to me once, he's like, hey, this, Type Blonde, the wood glue, you'd be amazed at how strong of a joint it is. It basically is stronger than the wood it's even adhering to once it's all dried. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I have to say that over the last 2.5 decades of using this and specifically in this type of application, I'm amazed at really if you get the nice clamping down and using the Type Bond, specifically the first rendition, not Type Bond 2, 3, 4, whatever, just the original Type Bond. This is a great glue for doing some of these repairs. So that being said, let's talk about the first of the three, and it's this one right here. So this is one that you're going to see not only on uprights, but on the grands, as you see right here. And this is a fairly simple repair. Now, the only difficulty comes with you deciding how you're going to clamp it. So what we're going to do in this case is put a little bit of wood glue. See if we can get this going out. Are you guys picking up my audio okay, by the way? Because one of the last videos we did, it was not
Yeah, it's running good today.
good. Apparently, to have good connection, you should be on the Wi-Fi network. Imagine that.
It helps.
And so as you can see, I'm just adding a little bit of glue, spreading it with my finger. I don't want like huge amounts on here. I just want just enough. There's some debate in the industry, actually just in the woodworking community. Like, do you glue both sides? Do you just do one?
I guess the other
yeah.
question that I have is, do you let it dry a little bit before trying to adhere it, or do you adhere it immediately? That's another.
I personally adhere it immediately because I know that I'm a little slower when it comes to like getting it clamped, and by the time, and so it kind of already jellifies. That's not really a word. Gels up. I love these little clamps. These ones you can get it really at Home Depot or anywhere, but I found that I like to buy all my clamps from Harbor Freight. They're the least expensive, and they, for something like a clamp, they don't seem to. Let's just say this: Harbor Freight isn't known for the like the high top level quality of tools, but for certain things like these clamps, I love it. I'll buy them all day long over there, and have great success with it. So I'm just looking at the amount of glue seeping out. Everything looks good. I'm tight. It's bonded everywhere nicely. We're going to go ahead and just let this dry as we're working. But that's really what I will do in the customer's house. Now, there's some people that are like, you know what? I don't have time, or this was at the end of the service call when I did this, so I'm going to go ahead and string it. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this string around it. Now, I'll say that I've done this in the past when it's like what I said, it's at the end of the service call and I don't have time to wait for an hour. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it with string, glue it, wrap it so that it's nice and tight. And then maybe when I come back the next time, I'm for sure, because my OCD, I'm going to slice that thread off and clean that shank because it'll be all glued. I don't know. Are any of you kind of like that? Like, or is it like, no, that stuff doesn't bug me? For me, I what do you think?
I think it depends on where in the piano it is.
Mm,
If it's
Yeah.
on the upper or lower keys, you could probably get away with that pretty easily. If it's in the middle where somebody's going to play it quite frequently,
yeah.
that might be a different story because they might want to be playing that piano before you get back, and then you've got something that's just strung, and maybe it needs alignment or something because you've been messing with it. So I think it depends on where it is on the piano, what I would do.
That's a really good point. And to your point, Janice, what I recently heard, it was like an interview with several piano players, and they're like, the best thing in the world is being able to play my piano the second it's done being tuned. And so, to your point, Janice, like people want to play their piano. Some people really want to play their piano after you've worked on it, especially, so that's a really good point. Right now, I'm just kind of sanding something. I'm going to show you in just a second another way of doing this.
So
Now,
David, while you're sanding, quick
Yeah.
question I assume that your clamps would be in kind of like your secondary bag. How many of those clamps do you normally have in your bag? Just one or two?
I've had as many as 10, and I don't know why. I don't know if that's because, so I'm really OCD when it comes to like the work that I'm doing on the piano. I am not OCD when it comes to my car or other things like that. I'm a selective OCD. So I would say, yeah, have 2 or 3 in your car at any given time. Now, most people will not have this in their car, right? Most people don't have a whole bunch of random, shanks and flanges to go ahead and try to, hey, I'm going to go ahead and just, guess what? I have a separate one of these. Most people don't have that. I've seen videos of technicians kind of like, oh, when this happens, I just swap it out. And I'm like, where the heck do you have all these extra parts? Like most people don't have that. I don't know, Stacy, am I wrong here? Or what are your thoughts on that?
It depends on the tech, but I would say
Okay.
unless they have a little shop. If they have a shop, they'll usually collect.
If they have a shop, they'll usually, yes.
But if not, yeah, I don't see I don't see like a bucket like that typically.
Yeah, because there's so many, sorry about this. There's so many different shanks out there and sizes and everything. It's not like a one size fits all by any means. And I saw some of these videos. I'm like, where are they? Just, most of the time, 99 out of 100, I'm having to repair it on the site. That, and again, going back to that OCD, this is the original one, right? And this is the only one I could find. So one of these things is not like the other. This is the closest one I could find where everything lines up. This is gonna look like nice white bright teeth, and this is gonna look like a dead tooth inside these things. So I don't know. If you have replacement shank, use it. That's great. But most of the time, you're gonna have to repair it.
Well, maybe it also has to do with how far away the client is. If you're driving an hour, if it's 10 minutes down, to get into Flagstaff and back, then maybe you would leave those at home. But if you're driving an hour, you might very well carry a lot in your car.
That's true. That's a really good point because, and I do notice that. So when I work with technicians that are like, oh no, I all of my customers are in this big metropolitan city. They're close to kind of everything. But then other folks that are like, no, I'm driving maybe 2 hours to my first and all these appointments. I'm like, wow, you definitely have to load up. I'm going to show you this. This is this is funny. When I first saw somebody show me this. I don't know. It looks kind of funny. So this is a shank that I've gone and grafted another part of a shank to. So this would be something that in this application right here that I would use. So if you notice, okay, there's and I'm pretty aggressive with like, not aggressive. What would be there? I kind of push the envelope of what I think the glue can do, but even for me, I don't think that the wood glue would be able to seep in there and create a good bond. There's just not enough wood fibers there. So now I'm left with, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to go ahead and replace this shank with one that I found, or try to figure that out? Or am I going to try something different? In this case, I want to try something different and basically elongate this shank with a new portion of a shank. Does that make sense? So that, and so, because that is going to be very much, that's very much inconspicuous. You're not going to notice it. There's just going to be a little bit of a slightly different color shank right there. And how I do that is this. Now there's different ways to do this, and there's tools for this. In fact, Supply 88 just came out with a really cool tool, and it basically is this little rectangular kind of squared off thing, and you put basically the, let's see, where are we going? You essentially put the new portion of the shank, the brand new shank, and the original one into this little box, and then you take a saw and you slice it like that. So it creates these perfect angles that you can then glue together. Does that make sense? And it's a really great tool. It's very inexpensive. It's something that you should have, and it's something that I actually don't have right now. So I'm going to show you another way of doing that. Now, one thing that I will always have in my kit is like really aggressive sandpaper. Like this is 80 grit sandpaper. This is gnarly. Like this is gnarly. And so what I'll do, so this is the original shank right here, is I'm simply going to firmly go ahead and sand it down so that we're getting this angle. Now, when I'm sanding this, I am going to be doing it so that it's not like, the angle is important that you're doing it at. So if you're looking straight down, you want to either sand the right of it or the left of it. So you want it in that angle, just like I've done here. See if I can show you how close this is. Can you see that joint right there? Yep, exactly. I'm just going to kind of. So that's what you're looking for. But you want that joint to be not like underneath it. How do I say this? I'm not saying this right. So you want those joints to be side to side, but you don't want it to be like up and down, because that pressure can break that glue joint loose. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to go to the side of this. I'm going to try not to shake all of my equipment down as I'm doing this. So I'm keeping it very firm, and as you can see, this is slowly starting to take shape right there. I got this new walnut sit stand electric adjustable desk, and my boys and I put it together, and it was like one of the funnest things, because we just kept on like, I don't know, we were looking at it like it was magic. We pushed this button and the desk would go up and down, and we were all for it. So that's what I'm doing right now, is working on my new walnut desk that I'm sure is going to get super scratched up.
Yeah, I've had a sit stand desk for years.
So you can see that. So I've gone through and I've just kind of created that. Now, same thing goes with the new shank. I'm going to go through, keeping that same angle as much as I can, because I want those to line up. And I'm simply, once we're done here, we're going to go ahead and glue and clamp that together. And then it's just kind of wait until it's all dry. And then you just sand it, just like as I was doing with this one. You just sand it smooth so that it doesn't look like anything ever happened. That's a big one for me. As I've talked to you guys about this before, I really want to make sure that it doesn't look like anything has been changed when I do piano work. I want it to look factory. Okay. So you're going to run across this. You're like, okay, why is there this gap? It's because I need to change my angle ever so slightly so that we're going a little bit further past. So I'm just going to move my hand downwards a little bit to change that angle, and we'll be set.
Hey, David, what are these shanks made out of?
These are like a maple.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that most, I could be wrong, but I believe that most of the piano parts out there are made of, maple. A lot of the, hammerheads or hornbeam maple. There's even parts now being made more of like bamboo. I think that's going to be something that we're going to see a lot more of in the years to come. So basically, we're kind of getting closer to that. And so, again, this is just going to take a little bit of time for you to kind of refine that. I am a big fan. I used to own a tool like the one that Mark and Don at Supply 88 have recreated. I used to own one. It was more like a handmade one by my mentor. So I would say to go ahead and get something like that would be really good. Yeah, so I'm liking that. So I'm going to go ahead, just add some glue to this. Hey, Stacy, when we go ahead and post this on YouTube, maybe we could also in the chat, hey, everybody that's watching this in the chat below, there's a link to that tool that I'm talking about from Supply.
Nice.
How's that? I'm not a sponsor. Just like their tools. I like them people. All right. So kind of gone through and just tightened that up. I'm going to go through and just, I don't know, I think I'm going to use this. I've done this before too, where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm out of clamps. I don't know what to do. And just done something like this. And these work great too. So we're clamped. We're good to go. Move on. So the final one that I want to show you. Before let's not go yet.
Is he gone?
You went stealth mode.
He did. There he is. We lost you for a second there, but we're back.
You still got audio problems there, David.
Yeah, we can't hear you yet. No, he's frozen for me.
Have you guys had to do that grafting one before with the hammer shanks?
It sounds like he's doing that cosmetically
Yeah.
rather than just putting a new shank, which would seem to be easier.
It is just doing a full replacement. But to David's point, sometimes you don't have access to one that's going to match.
Right.
You're still going to have to extract the core of that hammer, right?
Yeah, and a lot of times you're going to have to drill that out where it's kind of flush.
You would just shave it and re-drill, right? Is that that's what I've done?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You're going to want to have a hand drill or a pin vise drill and drill out the core that was broken off in it. And then once you have that drilled out, then you'll be able to seat it on a new shank, or what David's doing, creating a new shank extension.
So one more set of tools to put in the car, right?
Yeah.
Don't they make an extractor?
Although to that point, I got this kit off of Amazon, and it's a little hand knife that you can, or a little hand saw to do this type of work.
Oh, cool.
So I'll have to find the
really
link
cool.
and send it over.
Is there like a lid? Like, what is the cover?
Well,
look like?
it just has a little case that it slides into.
Oh, yeah.
And then it has a secondary one that has basically an extracto knife.
Nice.
X-Acto knife. It's an extracto knife. And so it's got, and it does have a cap, but.
Nice.
And I find a lot of those things over at Harbor Freight. You know, they've
Yep.
got a lot of those cool little tools, but we won't get into whether the tariff is going to, you know, strike Harbor Freight or not. Right? Because everything comes from China over there, right? Yeah.
That's true.
Looking forward to that.
We'll have to see. I'll wait and see what happens for David.
Well, while we wait for David, I
Mhm.
didn't get to tell you that I'm going to acquire another player piano on January 17th. This lady and her husband had driven down to Camp Verde, which is an hour down south on the 17th, with a trailer and brought this player piano back a year ago. Now she wants me to make it work. And I was over there on Tuesday and I took off the cook plate and I took off the front panel and it had a mouse infestation. So all of the felts are all trashed, right? So she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to spend much money on fixing this thing up. She thought she was going to just get it with a tune in. And I said, no, this is going to be thousands of dollars mostly in time to do this. So she says, oh, well, she was feeling bad that she had spent money to, get the trailer and go down. And I'll stop talking when David's ready. So I offered her $400 for the piano and she says, I'll take it. And I'll get a little digital one that I can play. So I am acquiring yet one more. This will be player piano number 5. So.
Oh my gosh,
5! That's awesome.
So someday I will get my museum of player pianos. Go ahead, David.
No. Oh, can't hear you.
No audio.
No audio. No
It
audio.
I got a call from a guy that wanted $500 for a piano, and he sent me pictures, and it was a Kimball from the 70s, but it was a player piano.
Yeah.
And he had the top opened, and I thought, wait a minute, is that a player piano? Yeah. Said, does it work? No. Said, well, if it worked, you'd probably have some interest, and you could probably get the 500 for it. But I didn't realize Kimball made those because it looked just like a console until you flip the top.
Yeah. This one that I'm about to get is from the late 80s. And so it has a whole different player system, not like the one I showed you this morning. That's from a 1917 Lagonda piano with a simplex player unit in it. But this will be a new one for me to work on something that's new and newer. And it's got a whole different player kind of system in it. So I've got something else to learn. Are you there, David?
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Can you hear me?
It's delayed, but we have audio.
Oh my goodness.
I'm
I'm so sorry, everybody. Might do like a round 2 of this. My
It's good. You're good. You're coming through.
All right. You're going to need one of these tools right here. This is a grand hammerhead extractor. To Robert's question, because I was able to overhear things, the question was like, well, why wouldn't you just replace the whole, shank? And the answer is like what Michael said. A lot of times you don't have access to just a full replacement shank. So you're having to graft either a new piece, reglue what you have, and that's what we're doing here. This is a hammerhead extractor. And so remember with this one that we've grafted a new piece onto, we're going to need to remove the little piece that's remaining inside there. And so, can you all hear me, by the way?
Yeah, it's good.
Good. So what you're going to be doing is simply, as you can see right here, this kind of goes on here, and I'm going to be applying pressure. Now, you do need a heat source of some kind, whether it's a torch, some kind of a lighter, some kind of a heat gun, or I don't have that hair straightener, but that would be a good one too, because with the hair straightener, you basically just kind of hold it on there. It heats up the entire molding of the core, and then you're able to pop that out.
I've seen the hair straightener.
It's pretty cool
in action.
Great idea.
It works pretty well.
For me, this is what I have here, so I'm just going to go ahead and slowly heat up this core right here. Try not to catch anything on fire. Applying pressure as it's heating up. And I could feel it start to move. I think these are available at Shaft. I think we've had this one for years and years.
It looks like a monster repinning tool,
Right?
monster size.
It's like burning some of that glue off. There we go. Clean that off. And so then we'll clean off that glue joint so that when we're done with this guy, you know, we'll snip this and just kind of put it back on, and then we're set. So that's really how we would do this. That's kind of from start to finish. Here's how we would graft a new shank onto this. We remove the old portion of the shank here. Once this is all dried, we'd sand it so it's nice and smooth and looks good. Then we'd clip the end of the shank, put on the new hammer, and glue it up. Now, go ahead, Jess.
Can I ask you a question about that? Okay, so now that you have done this and it broke real close to the hammerhead, now we've got a glue joint really close to the hammerhead, right? Where you've spliced them together. So that's going to be close to the hammerhead, right? Because that's going to be the proper length. Did we shorten that shank so that that glue joint is a little bit further down away from the head?
It's a really good question, and the answer is actually yes. I did, because I want it to be maybe an inch or so away. And so yes. So that actually, so looking at this, that hammerhead's going to be closer to right here now. So plenty of space. That's a great question. Now, to your question, we have this last one right here. Now, this is the one where I will kind of run into fairly frequently. And so in this case, well, actually, let me specify. This is random. This is not what I thought I was going to have. I was going to see when I pulled this off. This literally just, I don't know how this happened, but the glue joint just broke, and I was able to pull this straight out. So
it broke the glue collar, essentially.
That's it, and it somehow was not adhered inside the hammer at all. So yeah, no, this would be basically just add some glue, pop it on, you're set. So let's go back to my first one. This is closer. So if you notice here, you know, the amount of wood fibers kind of sticking out on both ends, what I'm going to do is just see like, okay, hey, will this actually kind of just within those fibers and that wood go back together? And what I've kind of done is my rule of thumb, and some people will say, hey, that's not enough. It's not going to be a strong glue joint. That's fine. I've just experienced that it seems to be. And that is if I have a 1/4 inch or so on both sides, or, you know, of fingers, of wooden fibers that I can push together with glue and have everything bond, I'll do that all day long and it will stay and be good. So in this case, I literally just put that back on with the fibers there and it's good. So I'm going to add a dollop, that's a word, right? Dollop of glue to that and to here. And again, this is usually what I will do. This is usually what I see as the issue. We'll just have it crimp off right here. There's plenty of, yep, that just went right back on there. And I can feel those fibers and those fingers of wood hugging each other and gripping. So that's good. I'm simply going to then take a clamp like so and clamp this tight while I work. And a lot of people, I'm sure if you're watching this, you're like, that can't be a good long term. You'd be amazed, because I've gone back to these customers, right? You know, we keep records of everything, and no issues.
Yeah, I just put in the chat a picture of when you did. It was a little while ago, but it was right. It was just like that one, and that one still held a year later.
Yep.
But it was, one of them was an easier break, but the other one was just like that, just very little fiber left. So.
And I just posted the link to the little handsaw that I purchased, and it's a little kit. It's under 20, it's under $20. So.
Oh, okay, yeah. Michael, does it actually have that little thing where you put the 2 shanks into and slice down the middle?
No, it's just a little handsaw that you can use to cut woods and stuff. So you have a little mini saw, stuff that you can take with you and do this type of work.
Got it. Yeah. Any questions about that? Again, that's kind of that. Excuse me.
On that last one, because it's where the break is and how you're putting it back together. Yeah, I wanted to relook and see how you had the brace. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so
pushing it together as opposed to clamping down on the shank itself.
Victor, as I live and breathe. What a rock star. Look at him. The sunglasses on in Texas.
That's how he rolls.
That's how he rolls. I was talking to a technician the other day, and she's from the Portland area, and she's right now taking vacation in California. It's gorgeous and sunny, and I'm like, you are not missing anything here in Portland right now. We've been here for like 3 weeks during the holidays, and it has just been raining the entire time. It's been rough. So, Janice, tonight, flying back to Arizona. I want to see some of our sunshine. So,
well, we've had gobs and gobs of it, and no rain. So. What does that mean to you, David? You haven't lived here very long. That means forest fires. Okay, so do keep your eye out for all of those forest fires, because we haven't had any precipitation since the beginning of November.
I will definitely keep my eye out and watch out for the one tree that's in a 50 square mile of my house. I have a lot of cactuses, but no trees.
Well, we couldn't believe that last year they had a major fire down in Phoenix because there's nothing to burn. So yeah. How they got this big brush fire going, I don't know, but it was huge.
I just by the way, guys, that's that one broken one. I'm just putting a little bit of glue inside there and calling it good. Now, a lot of people
keeping that glue collar on, that old glue collar. Or you striking it off?
I am. I'm gonna totally leave it on because it has the same color and the look. I know. This is my little stomach. It has the same color and the look of the other one, the neighboring ones. So I'm actually just putting glue on it. Victor's shaking his head. Hey, I'm sorry today. I haven't had my coffee yet. I'm doing this.
I guess if you wanted the best joint, you would remove the old glue collar and.
Absolutely. If you want the best joint, if you want to do it the right way, you will remove that glue collar joint. I could see it, and through Victor's judgmental eyeglass wearing eyes, I could see it. Yeah, always replace that glue collar joint. Get a nice little collar around it, little donut. You're gonna have some people say, well, I like to use hide glue, hot hide glue, cold hide glue, PVC glue, wood glue. Some people say tacky glue, just all over the place. Ask 10 different people, they're going to say use this glue, or use a fish glue, or use a kangaroo glue, roo glue. So many glues. Like, you want to have some fun getting into an argument, go up to a piano technician and tell them that you use a certain kind of glue. And I guarantee you, he'll be like, no, that's wrong. You use this glue.
Do you know the first PTG meeting I ever attended? It was in 2013. And I'd never been to one. I didn't know what to expect. And literally the entire hour, they didn't even get to the tutorial. They just got stuck on, I use this glue. And for the whole hour, I was like, we talked about glue for like an entire hour. It was amazing. It's amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah, and by the way, you would simply just heat up that glue joint, just break it apart. Use, depending on the glue that was used, this one is really kind of crusty, so that'll come off really easily. So we've gone ahead and fixed this one that had that really smooth break all the way down. We've glued up our grafted shank to this one. Once it's fully dry, I'm going to sand it, clean it up, and then slice it. And then put on, taking that glue collar joint off, putting the new, putting the hammer back on. And then with this one, we just kind of re-glued it and clamped it. So that is kind of everything that you need to know about fixing a broken shank when it comes to your grand pianos. Of course, if you had a box, hey Victor, here's a question for you, brother. Do you have a box of these replacement shanks in your car?
I have a few, not a whole box, but
Okay.
yeah, they're kind of different kinds.
Okay. That's close. You just missed an epic rant about how most technicians I said don't have a box of these. And so we'll see how many people like chime in on YouTube and then, no, I have a box of those.
Yeah, but Victor's one of those techs that has the long drives there in Texas.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm pulling over right now to make sure my iPad's in my bag. I can't remember. So talk about a long drive. My appointment's an hour away. So. I'm pulling over right now.
So yeah, hopefully this is helpful. At least you'll now have some tools to, when this happens, take a deep breath when it does, because it inevitably will. And you'll just be able to kind of decide, hey, this is more like this kind or more like this kind of a break. I'm going to go this route. Again, you can use each one of these methods and they're totally acceptable and worth trying out. It's worth trying all three just so that you kind of have an idea on what to do. Questions before we sign off and I go work on some pianos? No, it was so descriptive and easy to understand. I have no questions. Michael, you were going to say something.
I'm trying to come up with something witty, but it's not coming this morning.
We haven't had our coffee yet. All right, guys. I will see you next week in sunny Phoenix. We'll work on some piano stuff together. So I'll sign off. I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the sunshine. Enjoy the rain. Wherever you're at, just enjoy working on pianos. And I will see you next week.
Happy New Year, David.
See you then.